Does a successful career in the arts provide the kind of mindset to help invigorate the early learning landscape? Welcome to Starting at Zero. Starting at Zero, imagining a world of high-quality education for our youngest citizens. I'm Jeana Ross. As an educator, policymaker, mother, and grandmother, it's my passion to advocate for the futures of our children. Tanya Wright is an actress, writer, and educational entrepreneur. Already known for her award-winning TV performances, including her characters on Orange is the New Black and True Blood, Tanya has also been hard at work in other pursuits. She won a Most Innovative Business Award for her hair care line, Hairiette. Next, this led her towards creating her new children's book series, Big Hair Hairiette of Harlem. While already a playwright and screenwriter, during the pandemic, Tanya decided she had to further shore up the educational side of her background. She got her master's from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, where she developed Hairiette of Harlem at the Harvard Innovation Lab. With a deep passion for early learning and a plan for creatively looking to bridge achievement gaps for low-income students, Tanya says she couldn't imagine feeling more energized about what lies in store. Hello, Tanya. Your creativity is remarkable. How do you see your talents from being an actress relate to being an educational entrepreneur?
So much of being an educator and an entrepreneur is actually very similar to being an actor. One is it's wicked creativity, right? I think that obviously actors, writers, directors, storytellers are creative people. But I also think teachers are creative people. They have to be creative people. I think being resourceful, right? I think that teachers are naturally resourceful people, and you know, obviously, as an actor and a writer director, I've had very lean, mean years as a creator in my life. You know, sometimes they were booming years, and sometimes they were not booming years. And the ability to be resourceful is something that I see that's is a trait that I think that those two fields share. And then also innovation. You know, I think that teachers, and I'd love to be able to start helping the reframe of teachers as natural innovators. It is likely that teachers don't necessarily see themselves as innovators, or maybe it's just sort of not been couched that way. But there's a lot of similarities between the two fields, and so that's why, for me, it's really just a sort of natural integration.
You're creating a movement through Big Hair Hairiette of Harlem. Tell us about Hairiette. Who is she?
Hairiette is the little girl of my dreams. She's probably my inner child run amok. In fact, I have her right here. This is Hairiette. Say hi, everybody. So she's 7, and she goes on learning adventures with her friends, Charlie the Comb and Barbara the Barrette. So she is a very spunky, spirited, very curious little girl who lives in Harlem, New York with her family and her friends. And she's taking a lot of my brain and heart these last couple years developing her.
What do you want people to know about the stories you're creating?
I want people to know about the importance of life lessons. You know, at the end of the day, I've written 30 Hairiette books. The first 3 books are going to be in Target stores in June of 2024. And my aim with the books is to, books are the foundation, in terms of helping children learn how to read. They are the primary tools in helping children learn how to read. But in addition to reading, I want them to learn lessons about life. So each book has a word of the book. For example, the first word of the first Hairiette book is gratitude. I won't, tell you too much about what the story is about, but she's got to learn something about gratitude, little Miss Hairiette. The second one is about patience. And so at the end of the day, I want children to be entertained and inspired, sure, but I want them to also come away with a lesson that I think would be helpful to their lives going forward.
Tell us about your journey from a child raised in New York City to early childhood education.
Yeah. So it's been a very interesting, windy road. But, when I look back on it, there are dots in life that connect, and it's only after a while, after you've lived life, that you can see the dots were actually very specific in their origin, and that they actually really do connect in the end. So for the last 25 years, I have been a storyteller, primarily an actor, on some very successful television shows. My first audition and first job ever was playing Theo's girlfriend on The Cosby Show many, many years ago. And I went to Los Angeles and I worked on a number of other shows from 24, NYPD Blue, True Blood. But I think it was the more recent one, Orange is the New Black, that really changed things for me in terms of education. It was really an opportunity to learn about transgender issues, about the prison system, about immigration. And I thought I had some ideas about children and learning. And I wanted to make sure that those ideas were grounded in science and research. And I knew I needed to educate myself in order to help educate anybody else. So I took myself back to school, where I graduated from Harvard. I got a master's in education and learning design, innovation technology. I graduated last year. That's why I'm still in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I love it so much. And I've been working on Hairiette the whole way. So really, it is, this moment in time in my life, and I do say that, in many ways, Hairiette really is my life's work. It is a culmination of all the dots in my life as a writer, as a director, as an actor, and a storyteller, and now as an educator.
Well, as the star of your elementary school play with the role of a birch tree with no lines,
you did your research.
What was your thoughts at the time, and how has it inspired your understanding and outreach to children to find their voice?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you so much. Yes, I played the little birch tree. I was on stage for 45 minutes with no lines. And I just had to be in the middle of the stage, being a birch tree. And at that time in my life, you talk about finding your voice. That time in my life, I was a very shy, very quiet little girl. And so I was definitely a little girl who was observing all the things around her, but had not yet found her voice to articulate and to talk about the things that she was seeing and feeling and about the world. And so in many ways, when I say Hairiette is my inner child, when I think back to that time in my life, I really wanted to connect with those children who are maybe the ones in class who are not always raising their hands. Hairiette is for all children, all colors, all cultures. It's not just a children's enterprise. It's for adults too, educators and parents. One of my mentors here at Harvard is a wonderful man named Jeff Dunn. He's the former CEO of Sesame Street. So Sesame Street is certainly is a sort of guiding, that ethos and the principles of Sesame Street are guiding force for me.
Tanya, you've said that going back to school at this time in my life has not been something I anticipated, but has probably been one of the most important and impactful choices of my life. Will you give us an example of how this has impacted your life?
Sure. First, I would say, when I think about school, when I was little, I didn't necessarily like school. I was bored. I was a highly creative curious girl, and so I wanted to get out into the world, right? That's where I thought like the real learning was going to happen. It was not necessarily in these four walls. So to my surprise, I have found school to be, at this point in my life, to be the most inspiring, nourishing place that I could ever think to imagine myself to be. I mean, this is, going back to school later in life is so different from being in school, certainly in elementary school, even, junior high school, even college. The perspective on learning, took every class so seriously. I did all, even the optional reading. I'm still reading. I'm still reading journals. I'm still reading the latest science and research coming out of the field, and really what I have learned is that I enjoy being a lifelong learner. When you're 20 and 25 and or 18, you don't really even understand. You can't even really begin to appreciate the privilege and the opportunity that you have at that point in your life to be in a protected environment where you can be curious and you can make mistakes and you can develop and you can learn and you can make things and you can make friends. Such an important part of education is learning the value of collaboration. It's been just such a treat, It's been a real treat, and I'm so happy that I gave myself this opportunity.
I understand. I went back to school in my 40s.
Yeah.
And it was just a totally different experience.
Yeah.
I just absorbed it. I loved it. It was a totally different thing, and I did appreciate it, which I hate to say I probably did not, like I should have earlier.
Yeah.
Who or what motivated you to take this circuitous journey to early childhood education, to go back to graduate school after a career in Hollywood and build Big Hair Hairiette?
You start to think about what it is you're going to leave behind. And I knew that while I have been very blessed to have a great acting career, I began to think wider and deeper about what I was going to leave behind, and wanting to participate in the early childhood space in a meaningful way. Yeah, it is a big change, really. I literally, I shut my life down in Los Angeles. And it was the year 2020, the year of the pandemic, and they were advising that people not fly during that time because we didn't have a lot of information about COVID. And so I literally took a train from Los Angeles to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and set up shop and went to school. And a lot of the school time was in classrooms, but we had on masks when we were in class, for those in-class classes, and we had some classes that were online. I sort of braved the pandemic to do this, and I'm so happy I did.
Tanya, you were recently selected as a finalist in the Saul Zaentz Innovation Challenge at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What takeaways do you have from this experience that could inspire other people working in the early childhood education field?
So one of the things, I'll just sort of double down on this idea of teachers as innovators, right? And I think so much about entrepreneurship is really understanding a problem and finding a solution to a problem. And again, I believe that teachers find solutions to problems every single day. They don't necessarily think of them as innovations, but I do. And if you have something that you've discovered that works for a child in your classroom, you might do well to share it, to create a community.
Our listeners are practitioners, researchers, and policymakers in early education. We imagine that transformation occurs when these silos converge. What is your call to action?
nothing works in a silo. Everything, that's why diversity is so important. That's why collaboration is so important. And the reason why it's so important is because everyone has a different framework and a way of thinking. So for example, in my learning design, innovation technology, my cohort, there were all kinds of people. We were all focused on one thing, and that was education. But there were lawyers in my cohort. There were doctors in my cohort. There are actor, writer, directors in my cohort. There were teachers in my cohort. And when we came together to think about problem solving, we all came to the table with a very specific point of view that ultimately made the thinking better, made the thinking more robust, made the thinking deeper. And so, if there's one huge takeaway from my time at Harvard, and then also, in a way that I can sort of extend this out into the wider world, it's that silos don't work. Collaboration works. Concentric circles work, and people working together work much better than this group working here and this group working here and this group working there.
And it seems like the more you can collaborate with each other and work with each other, there comes just automatically a sense of collegiality, which is so important. Yeah. And I think supports not only the work that's being done, but the outreach of the work. Yeah. To all the different groups, and so important, particularly with young children, that we work together, and your influence and what you're doing is going to be crucial in this work that we have to do.
As much as I am an entrepreneur and a media maker in the early childhood space, I believe that I can be helpful and will be in lending my voice in terms of policy. For example, I was asked to participate to support a piece of legislation that would enable children to be screened for dyslexia much earlier than they would otherwise.
We know that during the pandemic, so many children fell behind. Yeah. And even our youngest children, as young as 2 years old, we know now that their vocabulary in some cases was impacted. So important work that you're doing. Big Hair Hairiette is a literacy intervention. Did this come from your own love of reading?
Oh goodness, it came from so many things. So when I started at Harvard, Big Hair Hairiette, or Hairiette's house, was really actually focused on financial literacy. And so I was going to, that was my way into math. I saw the learning losses that were experienced as a result of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And the more that I read and the more that I just became interested, my focus then switched to literacy for a number of reasons. Sure, I am a reader, and I was a literature major in college. But I also saw some fairly startling statistics around literacy in this country and literacy in the world. And I realized that it was not going to be possible to help with the math piece if children don't know how to read. And it was really the Ann Casey study about children not reading proficiently by the third grade, who are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school if they were not proficient in reading by the third grade. And so that became, it just sort of viscerally felt that this was the space. Hairiette's house is an innovation that I created. It's designed to increase literacy proficiency in children under the age of 8. And so I use everything that I learned here at school, and I developed it at the Harvard Innovation Lab. And I'm working on the software and all of that stuff now. And so it's very exciting. And I've been very encouraged. So in addition to Saul Zaentz, I was one of the winners in the Harvard Innovative Venture and Education Award for Most Promising Early Stage Venture. And I got the Education Entrepreneurship Fellowship here also. So I've been heads down for, whether it's in the books, boning up on research, or the innovation lab where I'm literally tinkering and building an innovation that I hope will be impactful in the lives of our earliest learners. And, I can look back on my life and say that I was helpful to children. I'd be pretty pleased with myself. I can find no better way to really spend my time and talent and focus than to be helpful to the early childhood field. So it's a privilege, and I'll beat a drum, for as long as possible to make sure that people understand how important that is. Yeah.
Well, thank you, because it is important, and you're a great influencer. Yeah. I ask all my guests, what is their favorite children's book? What is the children's book that's left a lasting impression on you as you've developed Big Hair Hairiette and your other literacy works?
Yeah.
Literary works.
Gosh, there's so many. But actually, this guy here, I love this author. His name is Peter Reynolds. He's actually right here, based here in Massachusetts. And this is the dot. Just make a mark and see where it takes you. And this guy is also Peter Reynolds. This is the Word Collector, right? Yeah, I like Peter Reynolds very much.
Well, thank you, Tanya. We appreciate your time. Can you tell our listeners how they can find you?
Sure. The website is Big Hair Hairiette. Hairiette is spelled Hairiette, like hair. Get it? Play on hair. BigHairHairiette.com on the website. And you can reach me. Tanya is Hair on Instagram, TanyaIsHair, and Tanya Wright on Facebook, and then Big Hair Hairiette on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Well, thank you so much, Tanya Wright.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Starting at zero, imagining a world of high-quality care, education, and success for our youngest citizens. Please visit us at startingatzeropodcast.com. You can check out more episodes and also subscribe. On the website, you'll find links mentioned in the episode, along with transcripts, show notes, as well as exclusive materials shared by today's guests. You'll also find the video version of today's episode. That's startingatzeropodcast.com. If you found our insights on early childhood education valuable, we'd be thrilled if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only supports our podcast, but also helps us spread the word about the importance of early education. Connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at Starting at Zero and at Saul Zaentz Charitable, and I'm Jeana Ross on LinkedIn. I cannot wait to share our next conversation with you and imagine a future where every child finds early success.